Ain't no chance. Sure, that's a piece at all. Yeah, man, if I knew you were coming, I'd have you bring home. Nah, it's okay. I didn't want to bother you. I didn't want to bother you. You'll do that when you come. He's always roofing. He's always. But I still made it. Not gonna choose you. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming out. We have Pete today. He's working on a lot of cool stuff, right? In our backyard here in New Brunswick. If you've walked around, you've probably seen his name on a sign. It's a great story, Rutgers alum. Has an opportunity to share with us too. He's expanding his team. So let's give it up, Rick.
All right, guys, super happy to be back. Yeah, super happy to be back. As always, before we begin, if you guys want to take notes, that's cool. But if you're gonna BS on your laptop, please shut it, because I definitely want your undivided attention. I will wind up pouring out my heart and soul about real estate because I love it that much. What's your name?
Kabir.
Kabir. I got a Kabir works for me, so remember your name. Kabir, you're gonna be my assistant today. You gotta make sure this is on.
Oh,
okay. It's not. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Kabir. I appreciate that. So I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I was here last year. It's like a really smart room. What the hell can I talk to a bunch of smart people about again? Because correct me if I'm wrong, they teach you guys about a lot of commercial real estate, big projects, stuff like that. So I thought, why don't we talk about construction? You guys want to learn about that? Even if you said no, you don't have a choice because that's the topic today. So I'm a big fan of construction, and a little bit of backstory. Our company, we do sales, we do property management, we do construction. So have any of you seen our signs in New Brunswick anywhere? A couple people. Are any of you any of our tenants? by chance? Andy, you are actually. You are too?
I was
What, last year?
2 years ago.
2 years ago? Where?
Um, on Ray Street, 55 Ray Street.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. 55 Rec. Okay, that's a good, well, it's a good location, houses.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, like, it's not like I own all this stuff. Like, I manage it for like your uncle, your mom, your brothers, like, we can only control so much. Anyway, absolutely love New Brunswick. Played football at Rutgers, for those of you who don't know. So I'm down in New Brunswick every day, love seeing the growth of Rutgers, and this would be a good topic to talk about. So how many of you have seen like something like this, a set of construction plans, or architect plans? Raise your hands. Couple people? Okay. Anybody here can catch? Yeah, here, I want you to catch this. You guys can pass that around. All right, it's heavy. You guys could just get an idea of like what they look like. And then this is kind of the difference. So that's a project we hope to build on French Street, maybe start at the end of this year. That's 8 units with commercial below. So it's like a nice little project. It's not like some huge project. So as you're looking at this, I want you to think like, damn it, if this is how much that weighs, like this building you're standing in, like imagine how big those plants are. And what I want you guys, what I want you to get out of this tonight is have a real appreciation for people in the trades. For a couple of reasons. Because frankly, without them, like this economy falls apart. Okay, and that's the God honest truth. Because you guys sitting behind a keyboard, that's great, that's all nice, but like where you sit, you're probably sitting in an office. How'd the office get built? The people in the trades. Okay. And so we're gonna walk through building a house. I'm gonna explain every step of the way that a property gets built. Okay. And if you guys have questions, raise your hand, because I don't want to sit up here and lecture you for an hour. I'm not a professor. Okay. This is a renovation for a 2-family house. Much different, right? Very light. How many of you live off campus? Okay, nice. We do this every year. This is a 2-family house on Plum Street that I bought 2 weeks ago. Gonna completely gut it. 3 bedrooms each apartment, taking out walls. The second floor is gonna have open, you have to, and you can look through this, by the way. Like here, you can pass this around one time. The second floor is gonna have living room, kitchen, open space, and then there's gonna be a sliding door that goes out to a second floor porch, which I think is really cool. So I love designing stuff in New Brunswick. I love either doing construction for people and redoing it, or buying it myself and redoing it. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today, is about the construction process and kind of how it works. One other question I have, how many of you like really know what you want to do when you graduate? Man, I do not see any confidence at all in this room. Guys, I'm in real estate. You got to be confident in real estate. You don't last. So you're going to pretend to be confident for like the next hour. Okay. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. How many know what they want to do? Oh, now you guys, I didn't say lie to me. It's okay if you don't know what you want to do. So what I want to tell you is, especially being in the Rutgers Real Estate Club, a lot of you are probably in the business school. Everybody tells you to go to college. Everybody's going to tell you if you don't get a great grades, you're a failure, blah, 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 blah. I'm here to tell you, if you guys don't know what you want to do when you graduate, seriously consider a job in the trades. A lot of these people, guys, make 6 figures. Okay. One of our vendors, I may have talked about this last year. One of our vendors does appliance repair. This dude drives around in like an old ice cream truck. He probably makes $250,000 a year, just fixing your dishwasher, fixing your refrigerator, fixing your stove. $250,000. It's not bad, last time I checked. Okay. Electricians, there's plumbers, there's HVAC. It gets even more detailed. There's drywallers, there's roofers, there's siding guys, there's window guys. Window guys clean up, you make a ton of money. There's landscape architecture guys, there's blacktop guys, there's concrete guys. There's so many components to real estate and the trade. And then there's the guys who sell the windows. There's the guys who sell the concrete. There's the guys who sell the lumber. My best supplier, the guy went to Virginia Tech, he graduated from Virginia Tech. He's like, yeah, dude, I got this fancy degree from Virginia Tech. I sell wood for a living. He makes a lot of money doing it. And these are probably things that no one has talked to you guys about. Yes or no? Have people talked to you about this stuff? You guys have heard of any of this stuff? No. You know why? It's not sexy. It's not, but it's fun. I mean, we didn't video this, but like, guys are cussing, they're making fun of your mother, they're making fun of your father, they're letting their hair down, they're being themselves. So it's something I want you to think about and appreciate. So, all right, let me see here. All right, let's see if this works. If sound. All right, no sound. There we go.
We should, right? There should be sound, right?
Is there sound on this?
Let me check.
No? That's okay. I can talk. I mean, we don't need. So this is a house we're gonna talk about a house I built on Stone Street last year, but the premise is the same. So what do you guys think the first step is in building a house? What do you have to do if there's a house there? Knock it down. One person's paying attention. Thank you. The answer is right behind me, guys. Got to knock it down. Who do you call to knock a house down? What do you think? Demolition? Demolition company, right? Do you think there's a lot of demolition companies? No. So, go ahead.
Why don't you tell us a step before that, before you knock it down, maybe a little bit about the acquisition and knowing that you're gonna knock it down to build something else?
Yeah, I could talk about that. Yeah, well, so when you go to build a property, it's obviously got to make sense financially. Right? Unless like you're building your dream home, you don't really care. This wasn't my dream home. So it had to make sense financially. You have to kind of figure out a budget, how much the construction is going to cost, things like that. But before you knock the house down, do you think you could just like, I want you guys to think, right? So do you think you could just knock the house down? What are some of the things you might need to do before you bring an excavator to knock the house down? Anybody have any ideas? Approvals, that's kind of important, yeah.
Figure out where you're gonna pull like the extra like bits,
The bits,
like the old house, so where you're gonna bring it.
sure. So think about New Brunswick. Is there a lot of space to operate in New Brunswick? No. You guys want to hear a cool story about this house? And let me tell you. Yeah, that's us acting like a bunch of jackasses. So this picture. When you're building, not every contractor's a good person. This is, I think, like August 31st or September 1st, okay? The demo guy I hired started demoing, he's like, there's bricks in the, in between the studs. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I don't know, I don't know if I could do that. What do you mean you don't know if you could do it? Dude walked off the job site. Can you guys answer a question for me? What happens in New Brunswick on Labor Day weekend every year? Do you guys come back? You guys come back? The school start? School starts? Oh my God, so the guy left it like this on Stone Street. Is that a busy street? A lot of students walk down Stone Street. Labor Day weekend, guy walks off the job site, leaves it like this. You know what I said? I go, crap, like this is a lot harder than I thought. So long story short, every city official got called. I got scolded. Cops came. And the cop's like, I'm not leaving here until there's fencing up here. And I forget his rate. He's like, I'm $200 an hour. Long story short, 8:30 at night came. I got a fencing company. We fenced the place. So safety is very important before you knock a house down. And logistics are very important, right? Especially in a city. If you live in suburbia and there's lots of land, like that's easy. I feel like you guys can get an excavator and knock that house down. That's not a big deal if you don't have to worry about the house falling on another house. So when you're doing demo, you have to hire somebody who knows what they're doing. Great job, Pete. Well, I learned that one. Okay. But before you knock the house down, what else do you think you have to do? Elaborate.
Electrical risk from not the house has not spreading water.
Right, so and you can help them. I'll give you guys the quick rundown. There's a bunch of things you have to do. You have to disconnect the gas from the street. You have to,
But it's recorded.
you have to disconnect the electric, right, from the telephone lines. You have to disconnect the water line. You have to disconnect the sewer line. You have to do asbestos sampling. Okay? Then you need to set up rat traps around the house. Anybody know why they would make you do that? I'll tell you. Because when you knock the house down, and if there's nice rat or mice family living there, they don't want them scurrying into the neighbor's house. So you have to do that too. Then once you do all that stuff, like, okay, you can knock the house down. You knock it down, takes like, honestly, the houses get knocked down in like a day, guys. It doesn't take a lot of work. It's a very skilled trade. Right, and the guys that operate these machines, that like look how close that house is to each other. Like one wrong move, I've got a big problem. Right? So you have to be very skilled at what you're doing. But it's pretty cool. That's like a day later. Looked like a sandbox. Right? So that's the first step, is knocking the house down. And then they take away, all the debris. Yeah, that's me celebrating, like pretending like it all went to plan in front of my wife, like. And honestly though, like I love this stuff. And the other thing I would say, and I do this a ton, is when you guys grow up and have kids and you want to do this stuff, bring them along with you, because like they'll remember that forever. It'll inspire them. Like my dad did landscape construction, hated it, it's brutal work. But it created a tremendous work ethic in me, and it made me really appreciate like the trades and building stuff versus sitting behind a desk and just writing TPS reports. So that's the first stage, demo. You guys have any questions about demoing a house?
How much is it typically cost?
Good question. Depends on who you call. So let me pause this before you guys get a whole host of Tverdov Housing how-to videos. Oh man, I can't remember. That was like somewhere in the range of like 35,000, something like that. But like I've gotten bids like 45, 50,000. You definitely don't want to go low bid on this. Big question.
Why not like gut it and redesign it? Why tear it all out?
That's a good question. You could do that. So I know some people who gut it down to the foundation. What do you think that means? They took the house down, just left the foundation. I was actually gonna do that originally on this house. My view is like, okay, I'm gonna build this brand new house on a 120-year-old foundation. I just replace. That's kind of how I felt. But like if you've got a house that's 60 years old, yeah, you don't need to knock the whole thing down. It kind of depends on the situation. All right, but like now, and again, this is a 2-family house. Like it's a nice project, but it's not like some of these monster projects you guys see where they're knocking down 4 or 5 houses and building all sorts of things. Now, the next step is not a video that I have because it didn't apply. It's site plan. Anybody know what that is? This is great. This is good. So let's picture that we're building something bigger. Site planning is like a couple different things. Maybe you need dry wells. Does anybody know what a dry well is? Raise your hands if you know. I'm going to call on you if you raise your hand. Oh, meow. Dry wells collect all the stormwater runoff. All right, so like, think of this building you're in. It's probably a pretty big roof, right? The water runs off the roof. It goes down the gutters. You guys can see the water spilling out into the sidewalk, right? No, it runs into a pipe underground, and that pipe runs and runs and runs, and there's a massive circular dry well. The water filters into, and then it slowly dissipates into the ground. So the whole rationale behind dry wells is to prevent flooding, honestly, is to prevent flooding like in the streets, right? Because the water has to go somewhere. So you might need dry wells. you might need to do grading, right? Because what if the property is like this where you're trying to build? You might need to grade the property so you have a level plane to build on. Or maybe you need to dig down, which I'll show you in the video here. Like we had to dig down a couple of feet for the basement. That's also site work. So before you start building, you need to do site work. Basically, it's like preparing the space to build on. Does that make sense? Okay. So once you've done that, do the foundation. So there are a couple different styles of foundation. There's a crawl space. Anybody know what that is?
Is that the attic?
A crawl space. We have markers. No, okay, that's all right. Just do visual. Crawl space is what it sounds like. You kind of have to like crawl into the basement. It might only be 4 feet high, guys. So you have a couple of blocks. And so the crawl space might be up to like here. Okay. They have something that's called slab on grade. Anybody knows what that is?
Concrete slab usually on here.
Think of your garage. That's slab on grade. That's not that popular, especially around here. It's cheap. There's no basement. This house, we did a poured foundation. All right, so let me go back so you can see a visual. Then we can kind of talk about some of these cool toys that they're playing with. This is a poured foundation. This is more expensive than CMU blocks. CMU block are like those 8x8 blocks that you see in like, honestly, like the dorm rooms are built with it. You guys know what I'm talking about? Yes. If you're finishing a basement, CMU blocks, they're cheaper, but there's a lot of seams. Over time, those seams could fail. Get water to go through. Water's not getting through that, through the siding. That's solid, right? So that's poured foundation. And it's really cool. So what they do is you rent these huge panels, right? That go like this, and they put bolts through them. And they bring, you'll see the video, they bring a huge pump truck. You got like this hose and it's just like shooting out the concrete. All right. So in a day, you get the whole foundation done. Now, and then now you gotta let it dry for about a week. And that's very strong, very solid. So that's a poured foundation. Now, before you do that, you've got to dig, right? You've got to dig what's called footers. Footers are these wide channels in the ground with very, very strong concrete. Because the footers are holding all the weight of the house. All right, so like all these old New Brunswick homes you guys live in, there are no footers. Don't worry, house isn't gonna fall down, I promise. Right, but like there's just there weren't footers now. It's crazy when you think about it. They just like start putting bricks on the freaking dirt. And they're like, okay, it's still here. So those are footers. You guys see? Now the let me rewind for a second. Okay. You guys see these pipes sticking out? These little metal pieces? That's called rebar. I was talking to a couple of you about that. Rebar helps the concrete stay together and not break. Because over time, like again, I'm not an engineer, but naturally concrete wants to break, separate. Rebar helps it stay strong and together. And depending on the project, some of them, like there's a ton of rebar. So like if you ever go down to like Florida or like anywhere in the islands and you see them building, like there's like a massive amount of rebar because they have to build the whole thing in concrete to sustain a level 5 hurricane. Okay, so that's what that is. That's rebar. And then what they're pouring, those are the footers. What do you guys think these little boxes are in the middle with concrete? Anybody have an idea?
The support's gonna go.
Well, so those are also footers if you're gonna put what's called lolly columns, because with the house, there's like, they call it like a load. So the weight of the house transfers, right, to somewhere. Most of it transfers to those footers. If you have like this big open concept, in the middle, it has to transfer down somewhere in the basement. Now, before you do the foundation, what else do we have to worry about? Think. Soil, yeah. Kinda, yeah.
Like tipping over, like sinking, like incorrectly.
So that's a great point. So you could do what's called soil testing. So I got a cool fact to share with you guys. I found out why they call Stone Street, Stone Street. Why do you think they call Stone Street, Stone Street? Anyone?
Slow stones.
There's a lot of stone on Stone Street. Okay? We found that out the hard way. So I wasn't too worried about soil testing. But what about if you're building a house in Belmar? Sand. How the hell do you build a house on sand? Right? It's different. So that's why they do soil testing, absolutely. The water lines. We got to bring the water lines into the house, right? And we got to bring the sewer line into the house. Right? You kind of want to do that while you're doing the foundation because you don't want to be doing that afterwards. So while you're doing the foundation, you have to create like little holes in the wall or underneath to bring in the pipes. So there's a lot of planning that goes into this if you guys haven't been able to figure this out by now. Yeah, this is the shot of the forms after the concrete is poured. And then who said soil? Was it you? Somebody said soil. So if you kind of saw where the foundation was, there's like a big gap, right? You have to put dirt there. It's called backfill. Right? So you have to put dirt around the foundation afterwards, the backfill. Right? What they're doing here, you see that black pipe? Yeah, that's, man, what a disaster that was. I'll tell you a story about this. So that black pipe is called a French drain. French drain prevents, it really prevents water from coming into your basement. It's a drain that goes around the perimeter of the basement. Okay. When you're building a house, I mean, I don't expect many of you to be a builder, but I'm a builder. So the builder is supposed to be there almost every day. Well, one day I wasn't there. We had a hole under the footer for where the pipe's supposed to go. And the guy at the pump truck was so sloppy, the concrete went into the hole. What do you think happened to the concrete after a couple hours? Rock solid. My plumber shows up, he's like, Pete, I can't get the pipe through the hole. So that was like a whole disaster. Where we're, and long story short, we eventually like broke up the hole, but it was quite challenging. So every step of the way, there's like a lot of challenges with construction. Whether it's guys not showing up or guy not being able to do the job right. What's up?
So, yeah, what happens with the
So that's a tough conversation, right? What's your name? Shuba. Yeah, Shuba, listen, man, I had to pay Kabir left, you quit already. I had to pay Kabir for the day to fix your mistake, dude. Like, who's gonna pay for that? Now what if it's the first time you're working with me? Like, that's not my problem, Pete, right? So what I've learned is building is all about relationships. So a lot of the guys I work with are like a general contractor should work with. They work with over and over and over again. And I've had guys screw up like, Pete, you know what? I'll get you on the next one. And I had another guy screw up in this job and like we parted ways, never heard from him again. Like, bro, if you can't stand behind your work, like, that's a reflection on you. So that happens. And that's why you have contracts written up with each contract. Because they're supposed to perform. This is backfilling. Okay. Now you see this black plastic? This goes on the outside of the house. Why do you think this goes on the outside of the house? Think. Water. You know what else goes on the outside of the foundation? They'll put tar for waterproofing. Now there's lots of other products you can use. That tar and the plastic are the cheapest, right? So there's a lot of codes that goes into this. And I also put you guys to appreciate, this is why new anything is so expensive. There's so many codes and so many things you have to do today that you didn't have to do 20, 50, 100 years ago. Right? Anybody? Go ahead, Tom.
So when you have the foundation, let's say the foundation's like 10 feet high, how many layers do they do until it settles and like they do another layer, another layer?
So what I just posted, that's yeah, so the forms come in 8 or 9 feet. I mean, they might go higher. That might be like a custom job, but honestly, like if you want to go really high, they'll do block, like they call it CMU block. It's like the big gray blocks. You had a question, somebody?
Big gray blocks, do you mean like cinder blocks?
Yeah, it's called CMU block. If you guys have your laptops open, Google it. CMU block. All right. Anybody else have any questions about that part of it? Nope. All right. So once you have the foundation up, you actually have to wait. You have to wait for the concrete to cure. Up to 28 days, actually. And with concrete, there's different strengths of concrete. Anybody know anything about concrete, or like the engineering of it? Man, this guy's smart. What do you know about it?
I do a lot of concrete.
Do you really?
Yeah.
So you know, like 3,000 PSI?
That exact thing, pump trucks, too.
My man. Honestly, this guy's gonna make more money than most of you. I swear to God. Like, the trades are where it's at, guys. I have 2 daughters. I mean, I might put them in the trades anyway. Like, I'm telling you. Yeah, so concrete has different levels. It's called PSI, basically different levels of strength. It's like a sidewalk would be like 3,000, 3,500. We went completely overkill on the walls here. It was like 6,000 PSI, which is stupid. I just like set money on fire. That's way overkill. But you know what? House is strong, like bull. You know, it's good. All right. So once it's cured, you get to do my favorite part. Get to frame it. So you get a whole host of lumber. And these guys open up those architect plans and they start going to town. And all of a sudden the property starts coming to life. All right? Pretty darn cool. Now, when they're framing, what happens is there's architect plans and then there's real life, right? Because like as you're building it, you're like, huh, well, that doesn't look right. Maybe we got to adjust this a hair. Or not, why don't we bump the, like, why is the laundry room, why is it 4 feet wide when we're doing stackable washer dryer? Why don't we make it 3 feet wide and now we just pick up another foot of closet space here? So you constantly have to be walking the site. And with framing, there's, so you see these, the green on the outside? That's called zip system. It's a very kind of trendy, popular sheathing. It's basically the wood that goes on the outside of the property. And I truly, I go above and beyond stuff that I build. It's got my name on it. It's got to be good, period. I don't build cheap crap. The zip system you'd probably use on like your own home. The reason why is it's waterproof on the outside. They tape every seam, so the house is very tight, so you don't have much energy loss in the house, right? No other landlord's doing that, I promise you. So when you're framing, you have the floor joists, and what's really cool is, guys, not that the floor joists are cool, but what's really cool is you could do floor joists, you could do, it's called TJIs, they look like the letter I. And then you could do something called, oh my God, oh, I forget. Wow, I'm drawing a blank. I'll get back to you. Anyway, there's a couple different things you could do with it, but it's also very expensive. The cheapest way is to do like 2x10, 2x12. Now with framing, you have to keep your eye on the framers, number one. Why do you think you have to keep your eye on the framers? Because they're moving fast, but sometimes they move too fast. Sometimes things aren't plumb. Sometimes wood grows legs and walks off the job site. True story. Those plans you guys have on that desk, I always put them in a job box. This isn't the only place this happened. I go to the site one day, I'm like, where's the job box? Everyone's like, I don't know. Like, you guys are the only ones here. Who took the job box? Nobody took it, Pete. Like, so you're telling me this plastic job box grew legs and walked off the job site? Everyone's looking at me with like a stupid look on their face. I'm like, okay. Okay. So, and that's why you gotta secure the site too, and people steal stuff. It's messed up. You leave tools behind, they walk right through that gate. So you gotta leave the place secure every time you're there. But there's a lot of details that goes into framing. And some of it's complex. Now, we didn't have any of this in this job. Actually, you can see this. Yes, you see that orange beam? Not the pipe, the beam. Yes? You guys see that? Okay. I'm kind of explaining it in this video. That's what's called, it has a couple different names. It's called an LVL, a macroland beam. Those beams are thick. They're like this. That's how wide they are. And they can hold a ton of weight. So if you're running like a long span, a long wall, it can hold the weight. If you have a really long wall to run like this place we're in, I promise you there's not wood up here. This is steel. That's the difference when you really have a lot of weight to carry. So if you have someone that has to install steel, should they know what they're doing? Probably, right? Who do you guys think you hired to like to install a steel beam? No, someone else. You know too much. Like a welder? A welder? You guys are smart. A welder.
Someone with like a crane, like.
Sometimes you need a crane to lift that. Now, about cranes, again, this is getting a little complex. Should the crane operator know what they're doing? I think all of you are too young. The Verve. Anybody here stay at the Verve? No one stays at the Verve? Oof. Okay. When they were building the Verve, the crane operator at the Verve, I don't know what happened. It wasn't secure. There was a windstorm one summer. The crane fell and smashed into a house on Hamilton Street. And thank God no one was in the house because they would have been dead. Now the owner got a new house, right? Crane operator, I don't know what happened to him, but that wasn't good, right? So basically you got to know, you got to make sure these guys know what they're doing. And what's important, the bigger the job, the bigger the risk, guys. So like you really want to make sure people know what they're doing, because doing a bathroom is a little bit different than like hiring a crane operator, right? So once you frame, then you bring in your trades. You bring in your plumber, your electrician, your HVAC guy. Who goes first? Anybody know? Should the electrician go first? No, why should the plumbing go first?
So the electric work around the clock.
Electric could work around the plumbing. What about the HVAC? Tom, my duct needs to go right here where you put your pipe.
HVAC probably was that.
Well, it depends. Everybody has to play nice at the job site. It's the truth. You have to have guys working together. Really, the order of operations is like you try to have plumber or HVAC go first. Electricians always last, absolutely, because they got to run their wires. And you just kind of sit back and let them do their thing. Now with plumbing, you guys have any questions so far, by the way?
So for some of these newer guys that maybe you're using that you haven't used before, so it's a newer type of project, how did you go about vetting them and finding something they're?
That's a good point. You guys hear that? Yeah. A lot of it's referral. So it'd be like, it could be our buddy, my framer. Do you know like a good roofer? Yeah, you know, and then you talk with them. You can check references. I mean, you should check references, frankly. You can also kind of tell. I don't know how to explain this, but like, if you're gonna hire a guy driving a van and he bought like plastic letters and he's like spelling out his name and it's like all crooked on the side of the truck, you probably shouldn't hire that guy. You know, you want to like see somebody who's like a little bit professional, gives you a decent price. How do I vet them? Referrals is the biggest, honestly. Because and sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but usually that's how I vet them. Actually, another great way, call up supply houses. You guys know what a supply house is? No? Supply house is where you buy your material. Right? So if I need framing, if I need lumber, I call my supply house. I'm like, hey, Rob, do you know any good framers? order a lot of lumber from you, whose work you've seen, and they'll give me a couple people. I've done that. I do that all the time, honestly. And that works really well, you know? So that's a good question. So with plumbing, there's a couple different types of plumbing, guys, that runs through the house. Okay. So what would a plumber put in the house? No one has any idea? Toilet, yeah.
Pipes,
Pipes? What kind of pipes?
water pipes,
Water pipes,
sewage pipes.
sewage pipes?
Heating system.
That's mechanical. I mean, maybe they could, but that's usually mechanical design. What about gas line? Yes? Yeah, it's not a trick question, gas line. And now there's different types of gas lines. There's black pipe, there's it's called CSST, which I love using, which is like I actually talked about in this video, I think. It's like it's a very flexible pipe, it can move. Which is good because it's easier to run through wood. Black pipe is solid. You can't move it, so it gets challenging. Electrician's kind of pretty self-explanatory. This is that's not it. It's around there. Now with the electrician, that's gonna depend on the design of the house, guys. Like how many lights you're putting in? Are you putting in canned lights? You're putting under cabinet lights? It depends how fancy you're getting with an electrician. How much power he needs to bring to the house. HVAC, like I said, HVAC is usually like forced hot air. If you have mini splits, they're gonna put that in. This is CSST, what I'm touching. Okay. That pipe is flexible. So if a nail like hits it, you see it can move. That's why I like using it. What else about the roughing? Not gonna bore you guys with too many details. Well, the other thing you have to do with framing, you have to do with it's like a lot of blocking. So you might have to put blocks up on the wall where the cabinets are eventually gonna go. Or you actually have to do what's called fire blocking. So with building, there's a lot of fire codes you have to follow to prevent fires from spreading. So in each stud of the walls at the top, you have to put a piece of wood to block any airflow from continuing up. All right, that's called fire blocking. And then once you have everything done, which is what I'm doing in this video, you wait for the inspectors. All right, and every time the inspectors are coming, like I'm nervous. And they love me, but I'm still so nervous. And as a contractor, you're nervous because the way the contracts are set up, you don't get paid until you pass that rough inspection. You get paid like by inspection, usually, if you're smart. So they want to make sure things go right. And depending on the inspector, man, they can make your life hell. Ask me how I know that. They can make your life hell. But what they are doing, they're making sure the place is built correctly and properly. That's the most important. Once you pass the roughing, then it starts moving fast. So once all this is done, what do you guys think the next stage is of building a house? We have all the electric wires in, the plumbing wires in, HVAC in. Drywall? Good guess. Insulation. Yep. Anybody know what insulation is? It's something you don't have if you live off campus in New Brunswick. But that's actually true that you really don't have. Insulation helps keep you warm in the winter, helps keep you cool in the summer, prevents airflow. Yeah, well, it doesn't prevent airflow, it prevents hot air escaping in the winter, cool air escaping in the summer. There's different levels of insulation. What's up?
Why don't New Brunswick houses have insulation?
But I was waiting for it. Man, I'm putting you all to sleep, I guess. Sorry. You're tired, by the way. You guys could stand up. It's okay. Why don't they have insulation? Well, most houses in New Brunswick were built like 1910, 1910, 1920, 1870. The insulation that they used were bricks. So if you guys are wondering, living off campus, man, my heating bill is a fortune. That's why. It's not your landlord's fault. Honestly, it's just, that's the house. And if you want, if you go home, if you live in one of these houses, you put your hand on the wall. You actually, and then you put your hand on an interior wall, you can probably feel the difference in temperature. Because brick has an R value of 2. Anybody know what R value is? Okay. R value basically is a measurement of like how much insulation you have. The higher the number, the higher the insulation. So R2 might as well be 0. All right, so you have an R2 in your walls. The code minimum is like R13. I put in R19 in the walls because it's like 3% more money. Stuff I build, I want it to be a little bit nicer. So you got to put insulation in, whoever said that. Then after insulation, there's an inspection. That's pretty easy. They make sure you put all the insulation in properly. Now, I want you guys to think, what about all the holes in the studs? Like for the wires in the pipe, what do we do with the hole that's around the pipe?
I got a question before that. For installation, I've seen some contractors kind of like spraying something on the
Yep.
on the frame, and then it kind of expands.
Yep.
And then in my house, we have like this soft cottony looking substance. So can you talk about the difference between the two?
Yes. So what he's talking about, there's spray foam insulation where they spray it. It's open cell or closed cell, really expensive, but like really good. That does not go in a rental property, even one that I've done. Then they put in what's called batt insulation, which is very, very common. You see it all the time. It has like a paper backing. Very effective. But in addition to putting in the insulation, you have to do firewall around all the pipes, all the wires. Okay. And I've begun to go a step further. I try to put insulation. So like if actually it's a great example. So you see the wire running here? I like to spray now in between each hole, right? For a couple of reasons. The hole that the wire is running through. Number one, to prevent air escaping. Number two, to prevent bugs. All right? Because really good builders, they try to build the house tight, and at the end they do what's called a blower door score. And now I'm going to lose you, so we're not going to talk about that. But basically, it measures how tight the house is and how energy efficient it is. So the more energy efficient it is, the less money you're spending on utilities, the less gas you're using, the less electric you're using. So right, so now you put up sheetrock or drywall, and that's a whole nother trade. All those guys do is sheetrock, and they move fast as hell. They put up all the sheetrock, and they tape it, then they spackle it. It takes a couple of weeks. Once it's spackled, it's ready for paint. And now you're like really moving along. Now, the other thing you guys have to think about when you're running a construction job, or if you get a home built one day, it's kind of like playing chess. Why do you guys think building a house is like playing chess? Where am I going with this? You.
Think about your next move.
Ooh, smart girl. You have to think about your next move, right? So if I'm doing sheetrock right now, and I know it's gonna be done in 2 weeks, should I call my painter now? Say, hey, this is gonna be done in 2 weeks, or should I wait 2 weeks when it's done to call him? I should call him now, right? Why do you think I should call him now? Do you think he's got other jobs? Probably, right? If I call him like I need you tomorrow, he's with Pete, WTH. I'm working. I can't come for 2 weeks. Now my job's stalled for 2 weeks. That's why you have to constantly think ahead when you're building, right? So the painters come through, they blow through most of the house, they paint real quick, then you put your flooring in. Tile, it could be luxury vinyl plank, it could be hardwood. I like putting in hardwood. It's very expensive, honestly, but I like doing it because, again, a place like this, I feel like I'm going to hold it, and I feel like over time I'll be able to refinish it, like when it gets scratched up again. Whereas luxury vinyl plank, you have to rip it out and go over it. Once the flooring goes in, the cabinets go in. Right? While the cabinets are going in, you start tiling. right? Now that the flooring is in, you could do trim. You guys know what trim is? Goes around the windows, the doors. Flooring, like if you put crown molding in, that goes in, right? Then once the cabinets are in, and once it's painted, now the electrician comes back. Now he puts in the canned lights. Now he puts the covers on the switches. Now the plumber comes in and he's putting the shower head on the shower. He's putting the faucet on the sink. Now, the other thing I didn't mention is once you have the house framed, you could do the siding on the outside, right? Because you got guys working inside, you can worry about the outside. And then towards the end, guys, it's just lots and lots of little details. Like lots of caulking, lots of adjustments. You got to order appliances, you got to order countertops, you got to order backsplash. And all that stuff is certain suppliers. Then at the very, very end, you have your exterior stuff like landscaping, grass, fencing, planting trees, shrubs, cleanup. The one thing I didn't mention is constant job site cleanup, constant. Even if you post signs, like guys are constantly leaving a mess, and some of them act like absolute animals. I told a story last year. This happened at this house. Before we closed up the walls, before we sheetrock, saw a guy left a water bottle like between the walls. I'm like, come on, why'd you leave it? I picked it up. It was full of piss. Nice. We actually missed one. So the tenants moved in like in August, and they're like, somebody left the piss bottle behind the furnace. God, behind the furnace. I didn't check if somebody urinated in the bottle and left it there. I'm sorry. Like, we'll be right over to take care of that. I apologize. So there's a lot of babysitting that goes into it. But yeah, I mean, the finished product is pretty damn awesome. And the reason why you build new, it's not on wood, like nothing really goes.
Big, question. So,
Yeah, so people ask that a lot, like, oh, what's it cost per square foot to build? Honestly, dude, it's like almost impossible to answer. And the reason why is because how are you building? Like, are you doing poured concrete like I did, or are you doing block? Are you doing a foundation, or are you doing a crawl space? Are you doing nice siding or the cheap Dutch lap siding? Are you doing luxury vinyl plank? Or are you doing hardwood? Are you doing granite? Or are you doing quartz? That's the problem. The other problem is like no one really wants to help you in the building industry either. So I called a couple builders and I was like, hey, I was like, dude, like, can you help me? What's three things? Like, what's three things you wish you knew when you were building? Dude, it's really easy. You just build it. Like, all right, thanks, a-hole. I get it. Your competition, yes. So yeah, it's tough to answer, honestly. Like, I know what it costs me to build the stuff that I'm building for the most part. But the other challenging thing is inflation, right? Very popular word nowadays. It's a lot better than it was, that's for sure. But it's challenging, building costs. You guys have any questions about what I've been talking about?
I guess to piggyback off that, how close were you? Were you over budget, under budget, kind of right at them? Maybe we could tweak it.
Oh, man. I'm not gonna give you the number, but what do you guys think this house cost to build? Somebody say a number. 750, I would shoot myself. 500, 600, 250, 250.
400, what was the square footage?
That's a good answer. Buildable was about 2,800 square feet. I went way over budget. But and this is especially when you're building for yourself, guys. And honestly, you don't have to build a house to follow this logic. Even if you're renovating something, if you're gonna do it right the first time. Don't cheap out, it's gonna cost more money. Get it done, then it's done, it's beautiful. Right, and then you're not thinking like a year later, like, God, I gotta rip this out. Happens to people. You know, but yeah, Tom, I went way over budget.
What are you gonna put this on rent for? This specific property?
So, cool story about this house. So when we framed this house, I don't know how, one girl group looked up the lot, found my name. And like found my office and was like, DM'd me on Instagram, like, we want to see the house. And I'm like, you know what, I will show you the house because I love that kind of investigative journalism. 3 girl groups showed up once we framed it. The house was rented in 12 hours when it was just framed. And then September rolled around, we're like, we're not showing any house until October 1st, which is the truth at our company. We had 15 groups who wanted to see Stone Street. And then like the last week of September, one of the tenants' friends, like they were friends, so they're like, hey, Tom, you want to come over? They basically showed the whole house to their group, showed it to our office. Check, like, all right, we got to cancel 15 groups. I'm sorry, like so like that we get. So if you have friends who want that house, you're gonna hit us up in like September. And we manage a couple of houses like this now. Plum Street is going to be just like this. Okay. And that's why I love doing this in New Brunswick, guys, because I know there's a lot of crummy housing in New Brunswick. I was a student here, all right? And what I'll tell you is a lot of landlords in New Brunswick are slumlords. We manage property for them. So if you think we're bad, bro, wait till you meet the owner. You think we're bad. Am I wrong? No. This guy's house flooded out, they blamed him. And then they blame me. Like, what the hell, what did I do? Right? So, me, being a Rutgers alum, loving New Brunswick, I really tried to improve the housing stock in New Brunswick. And we do 1 or 2 projects like this every single year. Because people deserve a nice product. This is a nice ass house, man. We have one like this on Stone, we have one like this on Bartlett, we have one like this on Gildan, we have one we have one like this still available on Handy Street on Cook Douglas. We did 3 apartments above Taqueria. You guys know where that is on Easton Ave? Beautiful ass apartments. So we do this once or twice a year. We get a few clients who we do it for. And do you guys know about all the construction classes at Rutgers you could take? No? You know why? There are none. You know what classes I took to do this? Take a guess. YouTube is some of it, yeah. And just like real life experience. You know how many houses I built before this house? 0. There's not everything's school, guys. Some of it's like hands-on experience. And that's why I want to talk to you about trades, because even like this railing, there's a company, all they do is build stairs and railings. That's all they do. So there's like so many little nuances, so many little different ways to make money. And that's not going away because there's a trade shortage in this country of like maybe 400 to 600,000 jobs, a trade shortage. Now I want you to think about this for a second, because like, I forget the exact number. It's almost like 50% of the people in the trades are above 40. So I want you to think about something. You can get a nice degree from Rutgers, business school. I work a hotshot job now. Well, that's great, Tom. I'm not saying Tom acts like that, but there's a shortage of labor. Some of you, I hope, have taken an economics class, right? When there's a shortage of something, what happens to the price? It goes up, right? So if there's a huge labor shortage because people aren't doing this work, things are only going to cost more money to build, more money to renovate. So again, like if you're not sure what you want to do after school, look into some of this stuff. Because you can make a ton of money doing it. We have a construction company. And like, I make decent money doing it and I don't even try. What's up?
Kind of like off of that point, like how much of it like did you do it like yourself without having to like ask people to come and do it?
Man, I don't swing a hammer. I'm a good leader. I've done tile before, I've painted. You know, I probably could frame, you know, I could do like some bare basic things. But as a builder, as a general contractor, I have to order material. I have to be there for inspections. I have to call my painter, I have to call my sheetrocker, I have to call the cabinet guy. Oh my God, I got the wrong cabinets, I gotta return them. So you're doing all these other things. It's hard to also be doing a trade. But if you want to learn something, like, there's plenty of people out there willing to teach you. That's honest to God's truth. And I will say for the women in here, okay, there's like some really cool female tradespeople that you could follow, right? Like female, there's like 2% of the electricians are female. I think like plumbers is like 5%. I want you to picture if you're like this girl driving like a pink van, it's like, I don't know, whatever your name is, plumbing. A lot of people are gonna hire you. It's the truth. Yeah, that girl's a plumber. Kind of cute too. That's pretty cool, right? Fair enough. That's, you know, that's an advantage. What's up?
How long did the project take you? Like, did it go over or was it on time?
So way over budget, way ahead of schedule. It's a good trade-off. So what I learned is a typical house takes like 9 to 12 months to build. I built this in 6.5 months. I flew through this thing. And dude, how many of you like know Stone Street a little bit? Okay. How many of you like know that new frat house on Stone Street? It's like the size of my hand. You guys know what I'm talking about? It's like this wide. That house started a month after me, and that guy was a professional builder. I built it like 4 months fast. And to the point, he started using all my subs. He's like, Pete, do you have a flooring guy? Pete, do you have a sheetrock guy? Pete, do you have an insulation guy? I'm like, dude, I thought you were the expert. Right? So anyway, that's kind of that. What's up?
A typical project like this, like how many years would it take to see like the return?
I already made my money on it. Yeah. Now, that's a good question. So Stone Street, this is where interest rates come into effect. So have you ever been following like anything about interest rates at all? Who here knows about the Federal Reserve? Anything? Really? Okay. Tell me something about the Federal Reserve. Who runs the Federal Reserve? Not you, Tom. Someone else. Someone else who has an answer. Come on, who runs the Federal Reserve? Nobody knows. Okay, bunch of liars. All right.
The government.
The who?
The government.
The government.
I mean, I'm not totally, like, I don't have that exact picture in my head, but it's a bunch of banks. Like, it's like big banks that have like.
Yeah. Powell is the head of the Federal Reserve. He doesn't make all the decisions. You have a bunch of decision makers that say, listen, I think the economy's hot. I think the economy's cold. We have to tinker with the interest rates. Okay. When they change the interest rates, it affects housing a ton. It affects construction a ton. When I started this job, I had an interest-only loan, I think at like 5%. When I finished the job, it was 9%. Okay, that's a big difference. So that big ass blueprint that's right behind you, now I want to build that thing, and the construction loan is 10%. I'm SOL right now. And if you know what that stands for, I'm not gonna say it on camera. No one knows what SOL stands for? I'm blah, blah, blah out of luck. Okay, I gotta wait for the rates to come down. So what do you think happens in the economy when a bunch of construction projects can't build? Well, not necessarily, but like those industries get hurt because there's no work. Right? Pete, I need to do sheetrock. I would love you to do sheetrock, but interest rates are 10%. I gotta wait for them to cool off. Pete, I need to do trim. Yeah. No. Pete, I need to do concrete. Bro, I hear you. And the same thing with housing, with buying and selling homes, right? Like I also do sales. People want to buy and sell. And 2 years ago, they could have bought a home at 4%. Now it's 7.5%. That sucks. Like fun fact, the town I live in, I did the math on this. The home I bought 4 years ago, if I bought it today, my mortgage payment would have been, I think, 75% more expensive. That's ridiculous. But that's why the Fed does this. Because they want you to stop spending. Stop. No more. Don't move. You gotta let the economy cool off. That's what they're saying by raising the rates. You keep spending, then they're gonna keep raising the rates. That's how they do it. But now the problem is, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but now the problem is, like, some things have like locked up so much. If they don't start cutting the rates, it'll lead into a recession, which they don't want to have happen. So the Fed has a very, very difficult job to do. But that's, go ahead.
How are you and some of the investors you work with, like, how are they managing still buying interest rates so high if they are at all?
So what I've learned, guys, a lot of people have a lot of money. They pay cash. I showed a house on Hamilton Street this week, fantastic location. And I'm like, all right, well, put 20% down. I'm sure you guys do this, blah, 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 blah. Okay, return on investment, 2.5%. That's not good. 2.5%. I could put my money in a savings account, make 5%. And then you're gonna call me. Why the hell would I buy a house with 2.5%? But people pay cash. And about at least a third of the country who owns homes, they have no mortgage. We got a lot of cash. So some of your parents might have a mortgage paid off. Right? So they're sitting on a lot of people are sitting on a lot of money. The rates.
Kind of a two-part question, but like football to where you are now, like what did that journey look like, and what is everything you do now?
And that could be a whole other talk. I kind of talked about that last year. Yeah. Yeah, I would just say a lot of hard work. Yeah, graduated in 2009, got a job on Wall Street on the. Any of you like want to work at an investment bank at Wall Street? One person? Any of you want to work at all after you graduate? 60% of the room. All right, we're screwed. When I graduated in 2009, the unemployment rate was like almost 10%. The unemployment rate now is like 3.5%. No one wanted to hire anybody. I worked for free in New York. Just got my foot in the door. That's what it's all about when you guys graduate. You just got to get your foot in the door. I was talking to Tom about that earlier. Like, you're not landing your dream job when you graduate here. Get your foot in the door, get legit work experience, and work your absolute ass off. Don't sit there and work from home 5 days a week and BS and complain that you get promoted and you hate your job. You got to work your tail off, honestly, with anything that you do. And that's what I did. And then I kept leveraging one opportunity to another, to another, to another. I started buying real estate around here. And then when I'm like 27, 28, it's like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. Not work behind a desk the rest of my life and pretend to care about this guy's weekend. How was your weekend? Good. Oh, yeah, it was good. You know, this is what I like doing, building this stuff and selling homes. And you telling me your pipe burst on July 4th. That's what I like doing. So that's kind of the journey I took. And it was hard, guys. Like this, like you got to work your tail off with whatever you want to do in your life. That's the best piece of advice I can give you.
So my question is, when you build these houses, so you sort of have like an intimate audience as the people that are gonna like rent the property because like New Brunswick is sort of like a weird area. I mean, it's an interesting area because like it's obviously a college town. Like you go like in another person, you're like, oh wow, this is not really each other. You know, like you don't even.
Oh, I know.
So I mean, does it always end up being a specific group of people? Like, do you have that in mind in the house, or is it just like whoever takes it?
That's a great question. So if you're building a house for an investment property, you definitely need to know about location. And one of you guys asked me about that earlier, like basically figuring out if it's going to pencil out. Because if I built this house in the middle of New Brunswick, I would have lost my ass. Okay. But I knew who my audience was. And if, you know, like, I would probably build this house differently if I was building it in, I don't know, name your favorite rich town around where you live, right? Like you got to know your audience. Who's the end user going to be of your product? Like for this, it was you guys. If I was building this in the middle of New Brunswick, first of all, the purchase price would have been different. But like what I would have built would have been a little bit different. And truthfully, that's why you don't see a lot of new construction in the middle of New Brunswick. It is very expensive, guys. Like I told you, like I went way over budget on the construction, right? Do you think I got the house for free? No, I didn't. You think it was probably expensive to just buy the house to knock it down? Yeah, like it's expensive. And that's why, if you're wondering, like the people Any new construction you see, it's like, oh my God, 5,000 square foot house, 4,000 square foot house. This is crazy. It's crazy because that's the only way you can make money building new construction. You can't, you can't, there's no, it's almost impossible to build affordable housing unless you get massive tax credits from the state. I've looked into it. It's very, very challenging, which is unfortunate because like even low income people need a place to live, but it's challenging in construction.
After building this first house, what are some of your like future projects that you're looking for?
So what's your name? Ivana. Can you hold that up? It's strong. So that Ivana's holding, that's 8 units with the ground floor commercial that I want to build on French Street, which is in New Brunswick, which is a totally different market, totally different. There's no parking. Everybody on French Street, it's like a bunch of ants. Like no one has cars over there. So I wasn't worried about that. And it's corner lot commercial. Any of you guys know anything about commercial property? Corner lot is like prime time. Why? You could basically have 2 pieces of frontage, front and the side, all right? And then I built bigger apartments because in that area of New Brunswick, it's families. So there's a couple 3-bedroom apartments, 2-bedroom apartments. And then the lighter set of plans is what I talked about earlier. That's 65 Plum Street, which I'll actually show you guys what it's supposed to look like. Yeah, complete with the Corvette in your driveway. Right, so this is what 65 Plum Street is gonna look like in September. I promise you, it does not look anything like this now. We're not knocking this down. This is gonna be a complete gut. Like one of you guys asked me earlier, why do you just, you know, why don't you just gut it? This one, we're just gutting. Foundation's okay. We're just gonna gut it to the frame. And then it'll be new everything inside. New flooring, new sheetrock, new everything we just went through. So the answer is it depends. It kind of depends on the project. Those 2 we definitely have in the works. I have another client who wants to do a couple of apartments on Easton Ave as well, which I'm more than willing to do. And then the rest of it is just kind of as it comes.
How do you decide like how many bedrooms, bathrooms, or how many units in the house? You're gonna have to, it's like this on the streets.
Yep, great question. So that has to do with zoning. Anybody know what zoning is? Land use, any of that stuff? So I will tell you guys, the zoning in New Brunswick is very tough. Very, very tough. By the way, can I ask you guys a question? Like, how many of you live in studio apartments? One freaking guy. How many of you want to live in a studio apartment? Like 5 people. Okay, this is great. All New Brunswick is pushing is studio apartments, studio apartments, studio apartments, studio apartments. So to answer your question, it's challenging, man. In New Brunswick, if you need to get a variance, you guys can. If you need, so I'm sorry, do you guys know what a variance is? Okay, a couple people. So zoning basically creates like a set of rules. Say, this is what you guys could build, this is how high, this is how blah, blah, blah. If you break those rules, you need a variance. It's basically like saying like, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you let me build this? That's what it's like saying. In New Brunswick, you need like a variance for everything. So that gets very expensive. I need to pay an architect, I need to pay an engineer, I need to pay an attorney. I need to pay New Brunswick for the privilege of reviewing my plan. Isn't that crazy? 15 grand. Just to tell you, Pete, this sucks. Rewrite it. So it's expensive. So you need to learn zoning in a town to figure out what you could even build or renovate before you get started. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels, wasting money. So I knew on Plum Street, it's like, well, wait a minute, I could actually finish the attic legally and add a bedroom up there. Like, that's okay. Ran it by the city planner. He's like, yeah, that's fine, Pete. Great. Drew up plans, got the approval for the attic conversion. So it's still 2-family, but now part of the attic is included on the 2nd floor. So whoever gets the attic space has their own bedroom, own bathroom up there. That's pretty awesome. And then I get to gut the rest of the apartment.
I think it's a very heavy question, but so like I think this is a word of gentrification is used a lot, especially with major cities, like for example, San Francisco or Philadelphia, where it's just like these people, like, how another gentrification so bad, not on these houses, being apartments, people have to move somewhere else. And, I mean, I think you say the same thing about New Brunswick, but, what do you think the goal should be with real estate? Sort of like having in mind everybody, rather than just like everybody involved, like whether from different incomes, because I think it's very, very difficult to obviously have a place where everybody can live, because if you make a house, it's very expensive. So I think, what do you think the goal should be?
Well, I guess I would start by saying you're asking somebody who is very, very pro-capitalist, that question. And what I would say is, like, the highest and best use should be what's allowed in that space. I'm gonna give you guys a great example. You guys know where the Yard is? Okay. When I went to Rutgers 15 years ago, the Yard was a blacktop dump with like 5 grease trucks where kids ate fat sandwiches and peed behind the grease trucks and puked behind the grease trucks and got into trouble. And the grease truck owners got really butthurt when Rutgers was like, you gotta go, because this is not the highest and best use of this property. And when they built what they built at the Yard, I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Right? So now that's probably not the best example, because that wasn't like people living in a home, right? So to answer your question, I still believe the highest and best use is always correct, but not everybody could afford a place like that. So what do? And that goes back to my question, like, if you want affordable housing built, this is the truth, guys, then you can't be so pro regulation. You can't be so, because they regulate you to death, to the point I have to spend so much money before I even start. Stone Street, I will tell you guys this. You know how much money this cost me to get the approvals before I even swung a hammer? $70,000 Stone Street cost before I even knocked the house in. With fees, attorneys, architect fees, like, it was ridiculous. So that's the problem, right? Like, yeah, some people they're greedy pigs, they want to squeeze every dollar, but some people do want, like, I've always wanted to build like workforce housing. We're preaching it for years. It doesn't exist. It's like impossible. Unless you get like some sort of tax benefit or like pilot, which is payment in lieu of taxes. So it's challenging for sure. But I'm a huge believer in highest and best uses.
Let's say you were, like the average student who's gonna probably graduate and work in like, whatever business job they're working at. How would you recommend that person start investing in real estate? Like, how did you just graduate?
Yeah, I talked about this last year with you guys. How many of you guys heard me talk last year? Okay, this is good then. I could tell the same thing all over again. Live way below your means. Okay? Because I'll tell you, I'm 36, guys, and I see somebody graduate like 23, 24 and go to Hawaii and they go to Italy and they go to this place and they go to that place. Like, that's stupid. You're broke. What are you trying to impress? Trying to get a dopamine hit with likes? Really? You know what's impressive? The girl who works for me who's 24 who just bought her first investment property. That's pretty impressive, right? She's not going to Italy and to Hawaii and to wherever to pretend that she's like well off. So when you graduate, you got to live below your means. And this is how I got out of the corporate rat race. I lived like an absolute peasant. And like, as my income rose, my expenses went like this. So the gap got wider and wider and wider, right? That's how you get ahead, guys. That's the God honest truth. And it's hard, especially in this generation. Everyone's trying to impress everyone. But it's fake. It's bullshit. Your phone, that's like one of the worst devices. You guys should all take your phones and throw them in the river. You'd be a lot better off. Pete, I see you on social media all the time. Wrong. You see me on social media all the time. I'm not on social media. I film it for like an hour a week and then just post. Right? So it's more impressive to live below your means and sacrifice than it is to fake it, if that makes any sense. That's how you guys would get ahead, because I will tell you, it was really, really sad. When I used to work in New York, I would commute 90 minutes one way and 90 minutes back, sad shit. I'd get off the train and these unathletic 40, 50, 60-year-old people were running to their cars as fast as they can to get out of the parking lot 5 minutes sooner. I'm like, I remember looking at them like, if I'm doing it at that age, I did something wrong. Think about it, right? Now why are they doing it? Why would they be commuting 3 hours a day for forever? Because they probably started making money, like, I know what I'll do. I'll spend it and buy a big house and an expensive car, and now I'm choking on bills, so I still have to work this shitty ass job and this terrible commute. That's the worst thing you could do in your life, guys. I'm telling you. Because all I did was sacrifice, and I started making money, and I started buying investment property. And by the way, that the real estate's expensive now. It's expensive 10 years ago. And 10 years from now, it's going to be more expensive. So just buy it. It won't let you down, okay? But if you live below your means after a while, depending on your financial situation, it's going to give you so much mental freedom. So like, I don't need to listen to Tom. I'm making like $5 grand a month for my rentals. Now, it's not going to retire me, but so what if this jerk fires me? I'm getting another job. I'll be okay for a couple months, you know? So I implore you really to do that. Don't go move. No offense if any of you are. Don't go move to Hoboken or Jersey City or New York City. Now, I get it. It's some jobs like you got to be in at 6. I get it. But like, if you don't have to do that, don't do it. Live at home for a couple of years. It's awful culture shock. I did it. I slept on a couch for 2 years, by the way, when I graduated. Unemployment rate's 10%, was commuting into the city. Slept on a couch for 2 years. I sacrificed. That's what you have to do to get ahead. That's the truth.
What happened when you were sacrificing and basically you started doing business and I guess all your peers were probably just, they were taking different, like they were just in the corporate route and then you started drinking. How did that affect, I guess, your relationships and started hanging out with, like, probably?
Yeah. I'll have to edit this out of my phone, but truthfully, I don't have a lot of friends that I grew up with. From high school, talked to like one guy, college, couple. And I'm a big believer in this. Like every chapter of your life, guys, you meet new people. Like you guys, some of you are friends now because you're all at Rutgers, you're all into the business. But then like, some of you are going to work at this type of job, some of you are going to work here, some of you are going to go there. So like each stage of your life, like you meet different people. And I'm a big believer of like, you are who you surround yourself with. That's the truth. So if some of your parents hate your friends, by the way, probably because your friends are nasty. And your parents are looking out for you. I understand that now that I have 2 very little girls. Like, don't hang around with her. She's coloring on the wall. We don't want you to do that. But yeah, like, and another great piece of advice that I've heard is everyone is happy for you until they find out you're doing better than them. So think about that. Everyone is happy for you until they find out you're doing better than them, right? You got a 4.0, I'm so happy for you. So, like as you climb and scale, not everybody's gonna climb and scale with you, unfortunately. But this is the other thing I've learned. As you try to grow your investments and net worth and all that stuff, like there's a saying like the richer you get, the poorer you feel. Like I've made some money and I've met some people and I leave like, damn, I'm poor. Like there's like some serious money walking around on the planet. It's pretty cool. And it's cool to be around those people. Dude, how'd you do that? Like, don't be jealous of those people. Be like, how'd you do that? And talk with them and be friendly. All right. What's up?
You're very different, like varying advice. Some people say starting off like just do kind of the slow and safer path. Other people say like read it on taking all risks. How do you kind of fall? Expect.
what I would say is don't have any regrets. When you're young, it's the time to take it. How many of you guys have kids? No one, right? How many of you are married? You're married? Good for you, man. How old are you? 26. 26. I got married at 27, I think, or 26. That's awesome. One guy's married. You have a mortgage? No. No kids, just married. So none of you have any risks, guys. You guys don't have any problems. You don't have any mouths to feed. I used to hear that all the time when I was in college. Like, it's such a stupid expression. You will learn when you have kids what that means, all right? Like you could starve. Can't starve that, like they didn't do anything. So like when you're young, that is the time to take risk. Now, you don't take stupid risks, but like, go for it. So like one example, like I graduated here, played football, had a degree in criminal justice, wanted to work on Wall Street, unemployment rate was 10%. That's not a good mix to get a job on Wall Street, right? I got one, because I just took a shot and tried. And I remember my roommate was like, it's like, Pete, you could always become a cop. No disrespect to the police. So you could always become a cop. He's like, just take a shot. It's like one of the best, it changed my life. It's crazy, like your roommate changes your life. So like, to your point, like I did take a shot. And I'm very glad I did. And then it morphed into what it did. My brother, who's my age, played, it's professional, fucking NFL. He played in the XFL last year. He's been kind of helping this year. He wants to get into construction. He told me a week ago, he's like, Pete, the WWE called me and asked me to try out. It's like, well, damn, dude, that's kind of cool. It's like, I don't know if that's for you, but like, what do you think? He's like, I think I'm gonna try out. I'm like, go ahead, man, shit. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He's a good looking guy. I don't know why he doesn't have a girlfriend. No kids, not married. Like that's the time to take risk, you know? Now, on the other side, like, there's nothing wrong with playing it safe either. But in your 20s, I would say most importantly, that's when like it's time to invest. Very, very important. That's where you can get a huge jump on people. So.
What was like your first like foot in the door for like this, like real estate, like this industry?
Yeah, I told this story last year. 2014, I bought a house in New Brunswick, 3-family house. First floor had 10 people living in there. It's a 4-bedroom. That's not okay, by the way. Second floor had squatters living in there, and third floor had potheads living in there. I turned to my fiance, I was like, we're moving in. We're buying this house. I was like, babe, I don't know what I'm missing, but like, we got to buy it. And we drove home and she was in tears. And it was a completely different real estate market then. It was the only offer. The house was listed for 2 years. They couldn't sell it. That's how bad it was. It had roaches, it had rats, it had mice, it had squirrels, it had bed bugs. I'm not making any of that up. It was a complete and utter dump. Fixed it up. My father-in-law like did not approve of us buying it, but I didn't care because my investment, my money. My friend's dad told me not to buy it, but I like trusted my gut. I'm like, I don't know what I'm missing, but like I did the math. I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like I'm almost gonna get paid to live here. It's like this sounds pretty good to me, and the rest is history. That's how I got my foot in the door. But now, so fast forward to today, like Pete, that's a nice story, but there's no houses, everything's really expensive. Like you could absolutely still do it. Absolutely still do it. You just kind of have to believe in yourself and get your foot in the door, and then you get a taste of it, and it kind of goes from there.
Yeah, I think we're coming up on time.
All right, no problem. Guys, we'll be here to answer any questions you have. Really appreciate you coming out as always, and thank you for having
Do you
me.
want to talk about your
Oh, yeah. So, one more thing, sorry. We are looking for a real estate intern for next fall. So we're gonna do actually a quick interview with all you. Show of hands. How many of you know how to mail a letter? Really? Okay. What do you put on the envelope?
Your return address and how it's used.
Okay, next question. How many of you know what a mailbox looks like? What color is a mailbox? I didn't hear a lot of answers, guys. Blue? Okay, email me your resume. Why do you guys think these are my 2 questions I asked? Because no offense, this is how stupid your generation is. I had an intern last year. It's like, do me a favor, mail this letter. I come into my office the next morning to check like our office mailbox. The letter was in the mailbox. It's like, she's like, I don't know what a mailbox looks like. So you don't know like the blue thing? She's like, what blue things? My God. So I will tell you though, if you're interested in interning, our office is on Easton Ave. It's minimum wage. You shouldn't be worried about the pay because I didn't used to pay people. You will learn so much about real estate being in that office. Need at least 10 hours a week. I mean, you'll do a multitude of different things. I'll bring you along on construction sites. It's really like you get out of it what you put into it. I've had a bunch of interns go off onto pretty successful jobs. Like I said, we're on Easton Ave. You do need a car. You do need to know how to mail a letter, and you do need to know what a mailbox looks like. But yeah, if you're interested,
I can.
you'll pass it around. Yeah, just email me your resume. You guys can come in. We can chat, and from there, right? Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time. Yeah, I remember your face.
Yeah, it was your last year. It was great.
Yeah, good.
So I graduated in May, but I've been working with software, basically as a different water, vision, or fluid thing. And I think it's a deal for brokers. Players, so I'd love to show it to you.
All right, let me.
I can get your office anytime.
Yeah, let me.
Yeah. But I can be at your office tomorrow morning.